Hey guys, a lot of you seem to be interested in Docker, so I want to do a quick hello world with Docker using Express.js. So if you don't already, go ahead and go to docker.com and get it installed on your computer. Come over here to get Docker, and then for pretty much every operating system you can get Docker set up. Now once you have Docker set up, we're going to be starting from just a blank project. I have empty folder over here in Visual Studio Code. And here I have the folder that I want to code in, open in command line. And first things first, if you want to see if you have Docker installed correctly, you can do Docker V to get make sure the version comes up, and then you can do Docker run hello world, and that'll make sure you have everything set up. Now I've run Docker run hello world before, so it's not pulling from a repository, but if this is your first time running it, what it'll do is it'll just make sure Docker is set up and good to go. Now if you get any error messages, make sure you get those fixed, and then we can start doing this. So for things first, I want to set up a quick Express application. So I'm just going to do npm init, and I set this up here, and then I'm going to just create a source folder, and then inside my source folder I'm going to create an index.js file, and then here I'm just going to say const express, and we're going to say equal require, and I'm just going to use require syntax so we don't have to use Babel, and I'm going to say express, and let's go ahead and just yarn add express, and then I'm going to say const app is equal to express. And here I'm just going to say app.get, and I'm going to create a quick route. So rec and res, and we're just going to say res.send hello. And I'm going to do this on the home page. And then I'm just going to say app.listen. And here I'm going to pass in the port number like usual. So I'm going to do 8080, but you can do any port number you like. And then here you can also supply a host name. For Docker, you need to put this, 4 zeros, just like that, to get it working. And good. It's all set up, I believe. So I installed Express. Now I'm just going to run this project regularly without Docker, and then I'll show you how we can run this with Docker. So did I call it app.listen? Yeah, I did. Okay. So now just refresh, we see hello, cool. So our app is good, it's running. This is just, your generic hello world for Express. So now I want to run this with Docker. So to get this to run in Docker, what Docker is a bunch of containers. And so we need to tell Docker how to set up the container. So we create what's called a Dockerfile in this project. And in here we specify how we want our project to get set up. And now when we create Docker, and what we're doing here is it's going to create what's called a Docker image, and then from a Docker image you can create multiple containers. You can kind of think of it like in Java, you create a class, and then once you create the class you can create multiple objects. Very similar to that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop running that. So first thing here, Docker files are pretty cool. You can set a working directory, and we're first going to say from. So what this means is Docker files can inherit basically from other images. So I want to use Node.js, so I can just say node here, and I can say latest if I want. And what that means is I'm going to be using the latest node in my container, which is what we want. Next, you need to set a working directory, and this is a working directory inside the app, so I'm going to say /app as my working directory. And then next thing we're going to do is we're going to copy our code inside of this app. Now at first when I was doing this, I was thinking all you need to do, so copy is the command you use. Dot will have all your files right here, and then the destination you can just put dot. And so dot is relative directories, so dot, this is on your computer, so that's these files here, and then we're going to copy it to /app because that's what the working directory we're in. This is equivalent to saying these two statements are equivalent, that and this, because we set our working directory here. But this is not optimal, and the reason for that is after we copy, what we're going to want to do is run npm install. And now if this is in a production environment, you also want to do production here, but you won't worry about that. So running npm install to install. But you can actually cache your npm install, and that's what people recommend. And the way you do that is by copying over your package.json first, and then running npm install, then copying everything else. And everything else for us is just the source. So I'm going to say source, and then I'm going to copy that over here. And then also you can set environment variables. So for example, I can say env and set node env to production if I wanted to. But again, we're worried about that for now. And then we're just going to say command, and we're going to say node source / index.js. Now in our package.json, usually what people will do is they will create a start, and what start would do is call node on source / index.js. And so you might be thinking, hey, this is how I have set up my app right here. Should I do command npm start instead? But it's actually better to do node source / index, and the reason for that is npm start masks some errors sometimes, so it can be harder to debug. So it's recommended to start it up like this. So what we've just described here is how to set up, basically, this is how to set up our container and what our container's image should be. So now what I can do in Docker is I'm in the current folder where my Dockerfile is, right? We see Dockerfile here. I can run docker build, and I do -t, and what that does is you can name it, so you can call this whatever you like, and then you pass the directory where your Docker file is, and for us that's this current directory. What this does is goes ahead and builds a Docker file. Now error response from daemon cannot locate Docker. This should be a lowercase f here. There we go. So don't misspell it like me, Dockerfile lowercase f there. So we'll run this again, and what this does is you can notice it's actually running each command and it's caching it. And this is fine. It just said we didn't see a package lock. Now if you're using npm 5, you can also copy over the package lock as well. Okay, so what it did is it just created our image or class. So now what I can do is I can create an instance of this image or an instance of this class, and I can say, and let's clear this, docker run, and I need to tell it which port to run on, and so I can run this command here. So I need to open up port 80. So this can be anything we want here. This is going to be our local host, so I could put 3030, 8081, whatever I want, and then the 8080 over here needs to match what we have in our source index. So we have 8080 here, so that's going to be matching up, and then you want to put the name of your image. I called mine example express, right? No, example node.js. So example node.js, and we'll say docker run, and cannot find module app source. Okay, so we did something wrong. Let's see, did I mess up the Docker file? Oh, nope, we are in, okay. Copy source. There we go. And, I need to rebuild it. I also want to show you guys, so you guys just noticed I messed up the path with this. I believe it copied over the source folder. We might have to do it like that. What I think just the error happened was I copied over index.js instead of the source file too. And what I like to do to verify this is just run an ls in my Docker file, and we can actually see what the contents of the working directory we are in, and we can even do print working directory as well. So if you get an error like this, you can debug your containers like this. That's what I recommend. So we can see that I did copy just index.js. So we don't have this source wrapper like I expected. So we just needed to get Node.js like that. Okay. So if you have a problem with it not finding the command, that's how I recommend doing it. I forget how to copy over this entire folder and not just the contents of the folder. It might be like that or something. But now if we do a build, and notice how we're rebuilding this every time we make a change here. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to run it. And we don't see any output, and you'll notice it's hanging my terminal. That looks like it's running it. So if I come over here, refresh, we see localhost 8080 is running, so it worked. Now I can change, we want to get rid of this, and okay, it's hanging in Docker. It's not listening to this. I'm going to Control Z it. Oh wow. Control Z is not even working. That's interesting. So I'm just going to open up a new tab, jobs. We can see PS. We can see Docker. Here we go. We see Docker is running right here. I'm just going to go ahead and kill that sucker. 1451. I didn't have to kill Docker like that though. I don't know why I did, because you can do Docker container ls, see which Docker. See, this guy's running right here. We can see it, and we could have killed him like that, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Anyway, so I'm not sure. Usually I'm able to just Control C out. I don't know what I'm doing differently this time. But what I wanted to show you guys is we can actually run this on a different port, and we can actually run this in the background using -d like so. So this is basically the ID. I don't know if this is the actual ID, the PID, or if this is ID for the container. But now we have it running on 3030 instead of 8080, but notice it's still grabbing it from the Docker container from 8080. Okay, so let's come over here to 3030. And we see hello world still, and if we go back to 8080, we'll notice it is not there at all. Well, I thought it wasn't. Let's see what's going on. Is our Docker container still running? Okay, so we have two Docker containers running for whatever reason. So this one, the status up about a minute ago, so we're going to copy this container ID, and I'm going to say Docker container, and can say stop. We can pass the ID, and it should stop the container. I have no idea what's going on with my Docker. It's just like not listening to me all of a sudden. There we go. Took a second to stop. Now if we do ls, we can see only one container is running. So here you notice we ran multiple containers at once from our single image, and we can see 8080 is not running anymore, and you can do 3030. And so what you can do is over here I can start another one on 3031, can start another one on 3032. You can just keep creating instances of your image now, which is really cool. So 3031, 32, and then I can see these images or what's running by doing Docker container ls, and I can see all these guys running here. So that's pretty cool. So that's it for Hello World with Docker. You kind of see the different ways you can start up your container and visualize the container, see it over here. And when you want to stop it, like I said, you can use this Docker container stop. Don't try Control C'ing it, because that doesn't work. I thought Control C worked. I feel like I've used that before. So I'm just going to come over here and stop my containers. And they do take a second to stop, as you can see. But yeah, Docker is pretty cool, and I'm going to be doing more videos with Docker in the future, doing some more advanced stuff than just Node.js. So thank you guys for watching.